Namaskar and a very pleasant good afternoon. Warm greetings to each one of you from DELNET Developing Library Network. The distinguished young enterprising invited speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Sumeer Gul, the Associate Professor, Department of Library and Information Science from University of Kashmir, Srinagar. The esteemed librarians, library and information science professionals, the HODs, the faculty members, researchers, scholars, students of various departments of library and information science, my own officials of DELNET at our various units, including at its headquarters here at New Delhi, as well as at Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Pune. Ladies and gentlemen, I, Sangeeta Kaul, on behalf of DELNET, extends a very warm, hearty welcome to each one of you for joining us today at this webinar, which is centered on which is on role of libraries in research information management in higher education institutions. And at the very outset, we would like to express a very warm, sincere thanks to each one of you for a very overwhelming response that we have just got for this webinar. And to share with you, more than 1,800 library and information science professionals and many other faculty members and others have registered for this webinar. So we are going to really looking forward to the deliberations today. At the very outset, we would like to place on record our very warm, sincere appreciation and thanks to Dr. Sumeer Gul, who has always been very, very supportive and cooperative with the DELNET activities. So thank you very much, Dr. Sumeer, and on behalf of DELNET, on behalf of each one of us, the attendees over here, we extend our very warm, sincere thanks to you, and thank you so very much for acceding to our request in being there and in sharing your vast expertise that you hold on the subject. We welcome you, Dr. Sumeer, to this webinar. Thank you very much indeed. As all of us are fully being aware that today we are deliberating on a topic which holds really great significance for not only for the libraries, but yes, for each and everyone whosoever is being associated with the libraries. And yes, we library and information science professionals are really gearing up now to get into the new world wherein we have been dealing earlier only with the library and information services, but now we are also getting more into the providing the support to our research community. As in the today's world, we are all being fully knowing about it, that the institutions now, they are being ranked according to the research outputs of these institutions really holds a key to where they really stand in their academic environments. So it's very much important enough for we, the library and information science professionals, to really now get into our new roles to also provide, and also to get into the new skill sets that how we can be in a position to provide more research support to our users. And also at the same time, the very topic of today's webinar, which is on research information management, how we can become the better managers of research information, which is getting generated in the institutions wherein we are being working. So we have a very distinguished speaker here today with us, Dr. Sumeer Gul, who is an associate professor at the Department of Library and Information Science at University of Kashmir. It's a proud privilege for us to have him here today on this platform. And I take immense pleasure in introducing you all to Dr. Sumeer Gul, who has nearly now in teaching experience of nearly 2 decades now, and he has been a bachelor's and master's degree that he did from University of Kashmir, and also the UGC NET, way back in 2005. And he also holds a doctorate in library and information sciences. You would be very much pleased and honored to know about his great contributions that he has been making as an author with the reputed publishers. And just to name a few, he's the one who is associated as an author with the leading publishers, including with the Springer Nature, Elsevier, Taylor & Francis, Emerald, Sage, IGI, UNESCO, and also with an H-index of 7 through Web of Science, 9 through Scopus, and 14 through Google Scholar. He has a passion for scholarly writing, which is quite evident from the contributions that he is making. He also has a cumulative JCR impact factor of 52.01 and also associated as an author with reputed journals like Scientometrics, Journal of Information Science, International Journal of Disaster Risk Reduction, Online Information Review, SLIP Journal of Information Management, Journal of Librarianship and Information information science, and many more. And in his corporate life of the university, he's also the coordinator, UGC Human Resource Development Center, and a coordinator, Directorate of Internal Quality Assurance, IQAC, at University of Kashmir. Dr. Gul also served at the departmental journal Trends in Information Management as an associate editor since 2011. Besides serving as a coordinator, departmental seminars and academic events, he's also a member of DRC and coordinator departmental examinations. All of us are really looking forward to hearing from him, because he holds a great expertise, not just simply as a teacher in the library and information science department, but from his profile one can see that he has a great mix, of being a true library and information science professional, and at the same time a prolific researcher, a scholar himself. And it's not that he's serving to the others, but he himself is practicing that. And we could have never thought of anyone else better than him to speak about this research information management, because he knows the best from all the worlds, from both sides of the world. He would be the best person to really give us his words of wisdom. So I have immense pleasure, Dr. Sumeer, and once again on behalf of DELNET, each one of us here today, it's a pleasure, to have you today with us once again, and must take this opportunity also to convey our very, very warm, sincere thanks and appreciation for all the support that you have always been extending to us. I don't want to stand between you and our attendees who would really look forward to hearing from you. So it's over to you, Dr. Sumeer. And once again, I request you firstly to unmute yourself, and we are also giving you a control as a presenter. And I request you to kindly accept our invite of being the presenter. And once again, we welcome you to the session today. Over to you, Dr. Sumeer. I'm requesting you to please unmute yourself. Sumeer, unmute yourself. Sumeer, unmute.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta, for these lovely words of appreciation and just glorifying me as something I think which I really feel honored of. It's really a privilege for me to be associated with one of the reputed institutions of the country, that is DELNET. So when I was a student, I always heard about DELNET. I always read about DELNET, but I think now I'm associated as a resource person with DELNET, and all thanks to the director DELNET, Dr. Sangeeta, for just believing in me and giving me an opportunity to be a part of my academic colleagues, both from teaching and non-teaching, who are working or practicing librarians or information scientists, or even some maybe professors, associate professors, and assistant professors also. I think it's really a privilege for me. And in fact, I should be thankful to Dr. Sangeeta for getting me connected with my professional colleagues, because it wouldn't have been possible that if COVID wouldn't have been there, that I could have just attended this large gathering. So thank you once again, Dr. Sangeeta, for all the warm welcome and just believing in me. So let me just share my screen. Can you please just specify that whether my screen is visible?
Not yet, not yet. Just for a second, Sumeer.
Okay.
No, it's not visible yet, Sumeer.
Can you please see, is it visible now?
Yeah, it is now there. It is very much there now. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Just a minute, please. Okay. Sure. So the participants, my professional colleagues from all across the country, very good afternoon to all of you. In fact, it's really a privilege for me to just share with you a topic that is of utmost importance, because with the intrusion of the national education policy, much more pressure is now gearing upon the higher education institutions, especially when it comes to research. I think let it be a two-way process, because during the session, I may ask some of the participants some specific questions which will just give me a vibe that okay, first of all, you are attentively just listening to me, and second thing that, okay, it's a thing that is of importance to almost everyone, be it the people from colleges or universities. I think NEP is now laying much more stress on something which is very much important, that is research. Because nowadays, when we just think about our institutions, our universities, or our research centers, it's always the ranking that comes first. And when it comes to rankings, I think one of the important components that needs to be evaluated is the research. Do you agree with me or not? Can you please raise your hands so that I'll just get a feel that, okay, we agree with some common point. Do you really agree that if we just talk about research as a component, does it really give some sort of boost in terms of giving your institutions a better ranking in terms of, say, Times ranking or NIRF ranking or some other ranking mechanism? Is it like that?
Samir, you can ask them to use the chat box because they would be
Okay,
able to, yes.
fine. Okay, I'll be happy that if you can just answer the same in the chat boxes of yours so that I may either get a yes or a no from your side. So I'll be happy that if you can just share your experiences so that I can just move accordingly.
Samir, yes, majority, everyone is saying yes. I'm not able to see anyone who says no. So all of them, they unanimously, they agree to this fact.
Okay. So when we just talk about this specific phenomenon of research, which is basically gearing across all the country, across all the institutions, it has really become one of the important phenomenons that we have to manage it. So managing the research is something very much important, because if I just talk about management, for me, management in simple words may be to make use of our research in such a way so that we may utilize the potentialities of our research to the fullest. I think all of you agree with me. I think 97% of the people, I think 100% have just shown a sort of agreement that whenever it comes to research findings of yours, you're always just thinking about management of research in terms of achieving a better satisfaction level. And what does satisfaction mean to everyone? That you're able to find a right kind of journal for your research, you're preparing your manuscript in accordance to some specific standards. Whenever you're submitting a specific manuscript of yours, it should find some specific place or a captivating place to make its impact. Usually people feel that, okay, when we just have a research paper, it gets accepted, then that is the end of the story. Do you really feel that if your papers get accepted, or you as a librarian, some researcher from your institution, or an assistant professor or an associate professor or a faculty from your institution visits you and asks for an expertise, sir or ma'am, you being a librarian or an information scientist of a specific institution, my paper has been accepted. Is it the end of the story? Can you please just share your experiences? Is the acceptance the end of the story? Once your papers get accepted, or a faculty from your institution says that my paper has been accepted, so I'm now happy, I'm contented. Does that just show that, okay, there is no road to progress for that specific manuscript that has been accepted? No, because ultimately you need to promote your work, because promoting your work, marketing your work, that is very much important. So you as information scientists or librarians, your work is not only to just issue and return the books, but show a path to every person who's associated with your knowledge hub, which is called as a library, so that much greater impact in terms of promoting the work that has been accepting, and how you can just help your faculty or research scholars or even yourselves, because at times you also get involved with the research. You have to ultimately monitor the impact of your work, whether the work of yours or the work of your colleagues, is it really making an impact? Because better impact of the work means better impact on your institution. Is it right or wrong? For me, surely it is right. So whenever you as a researcher are new to the field, say if you are a librarian and various types of researchers from chemistry, biology, or physics, even library science may come to you. And these are the expressions on their faces that they're always baffled, they're always confused, like how to manage the research, because they may be excellent in their research, they may be excellent in their subjects, they may have the best subject expertise, but ultimately when it comes to the knowledge exploitation in a more managed way, it's only librarians and information scientists or information managers who can just help them to just track the activity of the research in a more managed way. Is it so? How many of you have experienced the same, that because of your help or some researcher has visited with the same expression on his or her face to you, and you were a bit confused that how I should just help him, but ultimately because of your expertise with various types of resources, with various tools, you might have just helped him or her. Do you agree with that or not? Okay,
Yes,
let
Dr.
me
Sumeer,
just move on to
everyone
the.
agrees. Everyone
Yeah,
agrees.
so people are showing a sort of progression that almost 94% of the 99% of the participants show that, okay, because of the experience with various types of tools, you have always helped them. But many a times, because of lack of knowledge or ignorance about various tools, and many a times you may not be in a position to help a specific researcher or yourself to make a proper management cycle of your research, that you get distracted, and this may be the feeling that comes to you, that you just want research. It's your baby, it's your child, it's your hardcore work over which you have worked for months and years together. But because that you have a
Dr. Sumeer, it seems we have lost the connection with you right now. Uh, Dr. Sumeer, it seems you're encountering some internet issue. Requesting all our attendees be please patient enough because some internet connectivity issue I believe Dr. Sumeer is encountering right now. Dr. Sumeer, requesting you, I believe we have lost the connection with you right now. Could you please try, it shows that you are still connected, but we are not able to see you and hear you.
phone. Do you?
Yeah, Sumeer, you're back.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Yes, I think there's some internet issue right now, so you can just
Yeah.
keep the video off, and we can have the slides on and with the voiceover. I think, but we can try. You know, I think it just happened, and you may please kindly resume, yeah, and put it in the slide mode.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. Is the PPT visible now?
Yeah, PPT is visible, but in the you just put it in the slide mode, in the full screen mode. Yeah, that's fine, Sumeer. Please.
Okay. Okay. Fine. So you just want to put your hardcore research, the research over which you have just worked hard, you just want to burn it and turn into ashes. But you as librarians have to be better managers in just helping your researchers who are affiliated with your institution to have a better platform by which you can in real sense help them in managing the research. So it's all about a librarian, that you don't have to tell them just go and browse the Google. It's you who is the real Google, a knowledgeable Google, in fact, a tested Google, because you have the knowledge, you have the expertise with you, by which you can just share your experiences with all the people who are affiliated with your institutions there. Your expertise, your knowledge with various resources is going to help in the proper management of the research. So once you're acquainted with technology, you are acquainted with various types of resources, that is in real sense going to help all the researchers of your institution in just managing the research over which they have worked very hard. So whenever someone comes to you and he or she asks for a right kind of journal for his research, imagine that a person who is affiliated with the field of biotechnology or biochemistry, and he just wants to look for a right kind of journal. Has this thing happened ever to you, that some researcher came to you along with a manuscript of his or hers, and he is a bit confused and not knowing that where to publish his or her research? Have you ever helped him or not? I can just have the audience view. Have you ever helped him or not?
Few of them have said yes, and I can also see a no also. There are a
Okay,
couple of
so
professionals, yes.
fine. So it's not that, okay, if a person doesn't help a researcher, so he's not having the expertise, it may be because of ignorance or non-availability of the tools. But I will try to explore some of the important tools that will help you people as librarians or information scientists in just giving an evidence of a right kind of journal to a researcher, which can be a platform or a launching pad for him or her. Whenever a researcher approaches you and he just asks for a right kind of journal, I think the first thing that you should just sensitize him about a particular journal is the instruction for authors. Because when it comes to instruction for authors, even if a person from chemistry or botany, they may be familiar with the journal, but many a times they are not aware about the do's and do nots of the journal there. So once you just go through the instruction for authors, it will just help him or her to know about various instruction modes that are demanded by a particular journal, like what type of reference style or citation style this specific journal asks. Is the journal interested in, say, American English or British English? Okay, what is the manuscript length that is demanded by the specific journal there? What type of article they are interested in? Are they interested in a research-based article or a conceptual paper, or say it can be a technical type of paper or a review-based study? So the way a particular journal manages its research, it's basically giving you the instructions as a handy source so that you can manage your research, you can manage your manuscript in accordance to the demands that are demanded by a particular journal. So as an expert, I will always advocate that in order to manage the research, you should always stress upon the instruction for authors philosophy, because the way whenever you are entering a particular country, you're not aware about the culture, their food habits, their living habits, their dress, their other things. It's basically the guide or some person who is aware about that specific place. He or she acquaints you about that specific place. Same happens with the instruction for authors, that it's one of the best managing phenomenons by which you will be able to understand that what a particular journal demands. Then apart from that, when it comes to the selection of a journal, now imagine that you are aware about the journal and you know that, okay, I'm just interested in a particular journal. So you have two journals. I'm just asking a particular person or a particular participant in the group over here, uh, I'm giving you a provision that a journal A is there by the name of Botanical Review, and you're able to see that it is showing me that it has a journal performance rate, like from submission to the first decision, it's taking 46 days, and from submission to the acceptance, it's showing 104 days there. And another journal is there, maybe some say Botany Review. It has more days in terms of submission to the first decision, and like from submission to acceptance, it's having say 210 days. Will Botanical Review be your first priority or the second journal? I think the journal performance is one of the determining factors by which you can manage your research, because you will always make the selection of a journal which has a lower publication timeline. Do you agree with me or not? A journal which has a lower publication timeline, it means that it takes lesser time from submission to the first decision, and it also takes a lesser time from submission to acceptance. For you people, it should be the priority, because you will never waste your research, you will never mismanage your research if it is having a longer publication time. Is it true or false? Is it true or false? Do you agree with me or not? I
Again,
think
there's a mixed
majority.
response. Some of them are saying false, some of them are saying true, but I think there are more who are saying that yes, it's true.
Yeah, it is true, because my priority will be a journal that has a lesser time span, a lower publication timeline of accepting a manuscript or taking any sort of decision, be it rejection, be it, say, acceptance or a minor revision or a major revision. Because you will not always have an acceptance from a journal. So you have to be ready to face the rejections also, because like you can never get a rock star treatment every time whenever you are submitting a journal. So you have to be ready for a rejection also, because rejection or managing the rejection, that's again a way of elevating yourself in the research. And apart from that, the journal performance, how a particular journal is performing. Now imagine that if a researcher comes to you and he's asking that sir or ma'am, whosoever is the librarian or the in charge of that specific information system, and he's asking that I have a journal which has an impact factor of 1.667, and another journal which has an impact factor of say 2 or 3. What should be my priority? I think you may be a bit cunning in that regard, that you will always tell him that prioritize a journal which has a higher impact. Is it so? Is it so or not? Will you suggest your patron? Will you suggest your researcher? Will you suggest your professors that sir or ma'am prioritize a journal which has a higher impact? Is it so? Is it so or
Yes,
not?
yes. Majority again
Okay.
have gone for yes. No one has said no,
Yeah.
to it.
Okay. But I think whenever it comes to impact factor, it's a very big story. I think it is a story that has a darker side also. It's not always about a glorifying side that, okay, being experts in the field of library science, we should always advocate impact factors, because impact factor is an annual kind of activity. They go on changing from year to year. A journal may have a better impact this year, but in the next year, the impact factor may go on a decline there, or it may be on a rise there. So impact factor should not be the sole reason to manage your publications or making a selection of a journal, because some of the journals that are only accepting the review based articles, they have more citations, because more citations will always create a better impact, and better impact means a better impact factor. So never prioritize a journal which has a higher impact, because that has to be determined by your manuscript. Whether your manuscript or the manuscript that is given to you people by an expert or a professor, and you have to take a decision there. It is the quality of the manuscript that is going to determine that whether it will be a fit for a low impact factor journal or a high impact factor journal or a medium impact factor journal. I will just discuss that in the next slide over there. Okay, are you able to see something on your screen like World Journal of Engineering Research and Technology? Because I'm continuously receiving mails from this journal. I don't know like what kind of journal this is, which has an impact factor of 5.924. How many of you have published it with this journal, or how many of you have received a mail from this journal? Because I think yesterday I added the slide to my presentation there, and I had received this mail continuously from the past 2 or 3 years from the specific journal. How many of you are receiving mails from the specific journal, World Journal of Engineering Research and Technology? It may be a competitor to Nature, or it may be a competitor to Lancet or Cell. How many of you have received a mail from this? So I think majority of you have received it. Is it so?
Yeah, some of them are saying that they have
Dr.
received it many times, and some of them are saying they have never received it, Sumeer. But some
Okay.
of them are saying that
So
yes, many times they have
basically,
received.
they are basically captivating the young authors or even the seasoned authors, because whenever it comes to impact factor, maybe the thing that comes to your mind, my God, impact factor 5.924. Wow, my publication should be published in this. Do you agree with that? But never, because it is a journal which has an impact factor of 5.924, and apart from that it has an index Copernicus value of 79.45. And should we believe on it or not? Because many a times it can't be that you will always be an expert in selecting a particular journal, and sometimes we get befooled by these mails. But make one thing sure, what they are the deceptors. In the second instance, they will ask you that, okay, please submit your manuscript, and they will just put a big thank you for your manuscript submission. And ultimately, the next request is the article publication fee. And they are claiming the global impact factor, index Copernicus impact factor, and these are all the false or the pseudo impact factors, and you are not able to manage your research properly. Do you agree that if you fall a prey to these journals, you are not properly managing your research? How many of you agree with me that a journal which is sending a mail asking for a publication fee, having a false impact factor like global impact factor or index Copernicus impact factor or index Copernicus impact factor, is it properly managing your research? How many of you agree with me that
Sumeer, I'm afraid I think we have again lost the connection. This is to request you, Dr. Sumeer, the audio, yes, the audio connection has been lost. We are able to have the video, but audio connection has been lost. Requesting you, Dr. Sumeer, we are not able to hear you. This is for you, Dr. Sumeer. We are not able to hear you. There is no audio which is coming from your side, Sumeer. Requesting our attendees, please be patient enough and stay connected. We are requesting, Dr. Sumeer, we are not able to hear you. I think Dr. Sumeer is having an internet issue today. I'm just trying to connect him on the mobile to convey that we are not able to hear him. Sumeer, there is no voice coming in from your side. Yeah, please, yeah, sure, thanks. So I have conveyed to Dr. Sumeer, I think some internet glitch, some issue is there, and we do hope that it soon be resolved.
Fine now.
And yeah, it is very fine now. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Great,
Okay.
great to have you back. Yes.
So please, if there is some sort of disturbance with the voice, you can please just ask me over the screen over there, so that I can just see that there may be some network issue going on from my side. So in order to just avoid these types of problems, I think cables scholarly analytics is one of the best tools that you can just make use of whenever a professor or an academician or you as a researcher want to see that a journal that claims itself to have an impact factor, is it predatory or not? How many of you are aware about the cable's scholarly analytic tool? Can you please just give your responses as the audience view, so that I'll be aware that whether you are familiar with the cable's scholarly analytics or not? Are you aware about this tool or not?
No, Dr. Sumeer, again, majority, whatever responses we have received, it is all in, they are saying they have not been aware about it. No.
Okay. So one important thing is that cables directory was developed. Okay, how many of you are aware about the person who yours? Can any one of you just give the name of the person or share the name of the person in the chat box, so that I'll be able to know that majority of you or minority of you are knowing the person? So he's not Ranveer Singh or Ranveer Kapoor. Can you just name the person?
The one who is appearing in the pic?
Yeah. Let me just see that how many participants know this person.
Okay.
Because I think he's the person who has helped you to manage this predatory menace.
One response we have received, Dr. Sumeer, from Rajan Sharma, saying it's Jeffrey Bells.
Exactly.
And other one has said Dr. Campbell, Sheikh Sohail
No,
has said, and this
no.
Rajan Sharma has said it's Jeffrey Bells.
Yeah, it's Jeffrey Bell. Yeah, Dr. Rajan, you are correct. Because we should be thankful to him, because he developed a Beale's directory of predatory journals. So later on, like, he was criticized for his list, and because that list was later on seized, because publishers sued him, they launched so many cases against him, because the predatory business was on a risk of extinction, because he did a lot of hard work in highlighting these predatory journals. And ultimately the cables directory was developed, and cables scholarly analytics tool, which brought the cables predatory reports of blacklist and whitelist journals, so that if you as a librarian are there, you can help your patrons, you can help your faculty, you can help your researchers in managing the right and wrong kind of journal, the white and black kind of journal, the predatory and non-predatory journal. Then ultimately, I think this name is a darling name to everyone. Is it? How many of you agree with me that this consortium for academic and research ethics, which we call as CARE list, that was published by University Grants Commission, that it is a darling list of, I think, everyone, especially when it comes to our country, that is India? How many of you agree with me? How many of you are just agreeing with me?
Yes, again, in this, everyone seems to be agreed, with this fact that, yes, this is
But
very much dear to everyone.
That when it comes to CARE list, my priority will be always that CARE list has a grouping of two. Group 1, that is meant for those journals which have been qualified by a CARE committee, which is just constituted of many members. So on the list, you are able to see that there is a team. But I think to get a better recognition, I will always prefer the Group 2. Are you able to see on your screen the Group 2 there? Journals that are indexed globally. by the recognized in well-established databases like Scopus or Web of Science, because many a times even CARE is criticized. One of my scholars, we are working with the journals that are basically indexed by CARE, and you will be astonished that we did a sting operation in the field of medical sciences, the journals that are indexed in the field of medical sciences by the CARE committee there or the CARE list there, and they accepted our flawed paper. It was full of errors, it was full of mistakes and all the academic frauds. And unluckily, I think out of 100 or 200 journals, I think 75 or 78 journals accepted our flawed paper. So my priority, or I am suggesting that you should always prioritize the journals that belong to the Scopus or Web of Science family there. I think UGC CARE is much better for those researchers who belong to the field of languages, especially when it comes to the indigenous languages. Because if we have a researcher from our institution who belongs to the field of, say, Sanskrit or Persian or Urdu, Kashmiri, Hindi, we can't have journals that are indexed by Scopus or Web of Science, which belong to the indigenous Indian languages. So at that time, I think for those researchers, CARE list will be a rescue point. You should always suggest them. You should always help them to manage their publications through the CARE list there. But when it comes to the fields like biotechnology, biochemistry, library science, sociology, physics, and other well-renowned or globally acclaimed subjects, I think your priority or your suggestions should be purely for Scopus or Web of Science. And in order to validate the impact factors, I think you are all aware about the Journal Citation Report, which is synonymously known as JCR. How many of you are familiar with JCR, and how many of you have just used Journal Citation Report for just validating the credibility or authenticity of your research? Because if you are verifying your research, or if you are verifying the manuscripts of your colleagues of your university, it's again a way of managing your research. Have you ever, I think I'm seeing that the audience wave is good. They are giving their positive views there. And this JCR is one of the best tools that you should make use of, because it's giving you the impact factor for a particular journal, and you can just use it for checking the credibility, authenticity, or a claim that is made by a journal. That a claim that is made by a journal that I have an impact factor of, say, 5, 10, 2, or even 1, whether it has an impact factor or not, JCR is going to help you. And one of the best things with JCR is that it is giving you a trending mechanism of global impact factor. I think no one just wants to sail in a sinking ship. डूबते हुए जहाज में कोई नहीं तैरना चाहता है, या कोई भी सफर नहीं करना चाहता है. डूबते हुए जहाज में कोई भी सफर नहीं करना चाहता है. So JCR provides you the impact history of a particular journal, that what is the trend of the impact story of a particular journal, so that if it has a very bad type of impact story, never try with that specific journal, because many a times a journal may have an abrupt increase of the impacts, and ultimately it may have a decline there. So a journal which has a consistency in terms of its impact factors, you should always experiment with those journals. Apart from journals which have an impact factor, there can be journals that don't have an impact factor. Does that mean that they are not good journals? Yes or no? If a journal does not have an impact factor, does it qualify it for a bad type of journal? Is it qualifying itself for a bad journal or a good journal? If a journal doesn't have an impact factor, is it qualifying itself for a good journal or a bad journal?
There is a mixed
Dr.
response to this, Sumeer. There is a mixed response to this. There are many of our, attendees who says that yes, it could account it as a bad journal, but there are many others, who said that it may be a good journal too. It could be good, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm with the yes people there. Sorry, no people there. Because when it comes to journals that are selected by Web of Science, and Web of Science is basically proprietary for JCR there. So Web of Science has a very rigid policy of qualifying a journal for JCR there. So your next rescue point should be there. You can manage your research in those journals which are indexed by Scopus. So Scopus is basically a proprietary of Elsevier there, and it's one of the tools that you should always make use of, because Scopus provides you the SNP, IPP, and SGR. The way we have journal citation impact or an impact factor there, Scopus also ranks the journals on the basis of some quality indicators, which we call as SNP, IPP, or SGR. So your manuscript is going to determine that whether your paper will have a place for a journal which has a high SNP or a high IPP or a high SGR there. But make one thing sure that I think वो एक मुहावरा है कि जब भी इंसान के खुद में कोई गलती होती है वो उसे कभी गलती नहीं लगती है खुद की गलतियां इंसान को कभी भी गलतियां नहीं लगती है is it never if you just see yourself into a mirror you always look for the perfections in the mirror. Am I right or wrong? Whenever I see myself in the mirror, always people look for the perfections. No one looks for the imperfections over there. That I have a perfection on like this term, on this term, on this term. But make one thing sure that whenever you are submitting a particular journal, your paper will tell you that should you experiment with a very high impact journal or a journal which has a better SNP or a better IPP there or a better 5-year impact factor there. So if you have some sort of new research which is creating some sort of new theory or a new finding, like if you're working something on COVID-19 or you are having some sort of, say, you are just inventing some sort of drug or you are writing something of COVID-19 or say monkeypox there or some dreadful disease over there, it's always advisable that you should always experiment with a journal that has a high impact, a better publishing unit, and its other metrics like 5-year impact factor, SNP, IPP, they should be on a higher scale there. But if your journal, if your paper, your manuscript is a sort of like incremental type of progress, you should in fact, not can, you should always experiment with a very low impact journal or a medium impact journal, because in that way you are managing your paper in accordance to the characteristics or the traits or the features of your manuscript. Now imagine that if your paper was an incremental progress and you submitted it to a high impact journal, so surely it will get rejected because it has nothing new to offer. So it is the best way of managing your research that a new theory or a new finding means a better impact journal, and if it is an incremental type of progress, you should experiment with a low impact or a medium impact journal. In fact, you should always use journal finder tools. How many of you are aware about the journal finder tools? Can you please specify yes or no? How many of you are aware about the journal finder tools? They're basically the most appropriate tools that you should make use of. And I think 96% of the participants have said yes. And how many of you have used them? Or you have suggested your patrons, you have suggested your professors, you have suggested your researchers? I think a good amount are saying yes. So whenever you are submitting your manuscript, you should always use these journal finder tools, because these tools will help you to find the most appropriate journal from the portfolio or the family of the publishing house. Say Elsevier is publishing more than say 3,000 journals. Same may be true for Springer or Wiley or Taylor and Francis or other journals also. But at times you get a bit confused that if Elsevier has more than 3,500 journals, which is the most appropriate journal? And I get a bit confused. I am interested to suggest a paper, sorry, suggest a journal for my paper, or I just want to suggest a journal to a professor or a researcher of my institution. But I'm a bit baffled that he's interested in Elsevier there. And approximately Elsevier has more than 3,500 journals. What should I do? So I think every journal that belongs to the reputed publishing houses, they can be found through these journal finder tools. They help us to manage our paper so that they could find a right match there. See, if I just move to the next slide there, you're able to see on your screen that this is the journal finder tool of Elsevier there. It's as easy as anything. What you are supposed to do, type in the title of your paper, copy and paste the abstract of your paper, select the subject to which you belong or your paper belongs, and ultimately you can find a journal of your interest. So it will give you a list of suggestions that these are the journals, journal A, B, C, which is basically having a match with your paper. So it has an inbuilt what we call as artificial intelligence mechanism that basically creates a match between your paper and the journals which can be a best fit for your manuscripts there. Same is true about Sage. Sage has a service by the name of Advance. You can also make use of that. It's again the same mechanism that you are supposed to follow. It's as easy as anything. No need of just downloading some additional softwares or apps or any other thing. Simply go onto the website, log in, and put up the details, and it will come up with the suggestions. But something different, or you may face a big problem that if you have a research paper on COVID and you have submitted the abstract and the title to EDANS, do you agree that it will only suggest you the journals which belong to SAGE? Yes or no? If you are using EDANS, which is basically a journal finder service of Sage, and if you are putting a title and an abstract over there, it will be localized to the journals which are basically published by Sage. And you will not be able to trace or have a recommendation from the journals that are published by reputed publishers like Elsevier, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, or Cambridge or Oxford. Do you agree with me or not? Yes or no? Dr. Sangeeta, am I audible?
Yeah, yes, you are audible. I was thinking you're able to see that. Majority has gone for yes. They do feel that yes, it's going to just show them the Sage journals only.
So that will be a localizer type of service. So what we are supposed to do, always use a service that is basically an amalgamation of many publishing units there. And one of the best services which I recommend to you is the Match Manuscript service of Web of Science. So you should make use of it because it's a wonderful service that basically executes its search with reputed or across reputed publishers like Elsevier, Sage, Taylor and Francis, Wiley, because all the reputed publishers get their journals indexed by Web of Science. So once you are using this Match Manuscript service, how it works? So it's appearing on the screen that this service will help you to find the most related journals, and that too from reputed publishers, from Elsevier, Sage, Wiley, Cambridge, IGI, Kluwer, and other publishers. Type in the title, like I have just typed in the title, first assessment of pteridophyte composition and conservation status in Myanmar, and I have pasted the abstract. So once I click on find the journals there, so how it is going to manage my paper, and it is giving me some sort of recommendation. See, on the screen, what appears? It is giving me a match search result that sustainability is the journal which is having the highest match with my paper, followed by environmental science and pollution research, then pair G. And one of the best things with this manuscript matcher is that it is giving me a match score. That higher the match score, higher is the, I think, provision of a journal to be considered for your publication. Now, next step is about the preparation there. So preparation of your manuscript is again a way of managing your research. So you should always just see your paper as something raw when it is for the first time. And again, I will always advocate that in order to manage your manuscript properly, you should always apply guide for authors to yourself, because no editor in this world will waste his or her time in poorly prepared manuscript. So these are some of the things that you should stress on. The title of the manuscript, it should be all clear. Never experiment with those ornamental type of or flowery type of titles. They should be very much clear, specifying the subjective nature of the research, because better is the clarity of the title, better will be the what? Retrieval of your paper later on if it gets accepted. Then it should have the authoritative list. Many a times what we just do, it's on the basis of friendship, that I just put Dr. Sangeeta's name in my paper and Dr. Sangeeta just specifies my name in her paper. So it's all a bond of friendship. So we should always avoid that. Nowadays, publication units have become much smarter. What they just do, if you just put a list of 10 authors in your manuscript, you have to justify the role of every author, that what is the role of every author in your manuscript. So if you are specifying that relationship in the manuscript, it is going to lead you people into trouble there, because every author has a specific role to play. And be very much peculiar about the corresponding author, because he is the brand ambassador or she is the brand ambassador of your research, because whatsoever query will come to your manuscript, it will be to the corresponding author. So your corresponding author should be smarter enough to answer every query that comes from the reviewers, that comes from the editors, or from the publishing unit there. Then abstract and keywords. So abstract is basically the condensed version of your paper. So it should be an informative type of abstract, specifying mainly the purpose of the research, the methodology that you have adopted, and the findings of your research. And your keywords should be very much subjective in nature, because tomorrow if your paper gets accepted, these are the keywords by which people will search for your paper. And I will recommend that whenever you are earmarking the keywords to your research papers, you should always use a thesaurus, because that will provide you synonymous words or quasi-synonymous words, related words that will increase the probability of your research papers of getting better retrieved if they are accepted by the journal. The body of the text should be all clear. It should be all segmented under different headings, because that will be much better and easy to read there. Apart from that, the methodology should be all clear, because it's something that is the first thing that an editor looks into. If your methodology is clear, the editor will have no other option rather than to show some sort of interest, because it is something new. And if your methodology is all clear, that basically tempts an editor or a reviewer to just make your paper much more acceptable for their journal there. Be clear in your results, discussions, and conclusions, because they adopt a deductive logic, and it all speaks about how you have understood your topic. And the results should be all clear. It shouldn't be a duplication of your data analysis. Discussions should be from your mind in consultation with the previous studies, and the conclusions should be all clear. A total wrap up there. Then ultimately comes the acknowledgement and references. Acknowledgement is something very much important. I think the creator of ours, we bow in front of our creator. Like being Muslim, we have to bow 5 times in front of my Almighty Allah. So एक इंसान को शुक्रगुजार रहना होता है, तो अल्लाह ताला को भी नाशुक्र इंसान पसंद नहीं है. So whosoever has just helped in your research work, you have to acknowledge him. He or she can be your, say, mentor, supervisor in institution, or your funding agency, or even any person who has helped in your research. Then the references, because that basically authenticates your work. If you're not properly citing your research, you're not giving proper references, that may land you into the trouble of plagiarism. And all thanks to the current online tools, which I'm just going to discuss in the next slide over there. One of the best things that will help you to manage your research paper is the language quality, because many a times our research may be excellent, it may be at par with anything, but many a times our way of writing or our way of communicating is so poor that because of poor communication our papers get rejected. So the funder of communication or the language quality is that you should be using a very simple language that is easy to understand. Never used a language that is jargon based, or a reader is supposed to make use of a dictionary in order to understand what you want to convey. And be consistent either with the British English or the US English, because many a times what we just do, we make a mix of both, and that leads to rejection there. Elsevier has one of the best services by the name of Webshop, which will help you people in your language editing. Even if you just want to get your papers translated into some other language, it will also help you. And you can also make use of the same service for improving your illustrations. Say if you are drawing some sort of infographics or say images, or say if you just want to show some sort of sale division, I think Webshop is going to do wonders for your research. Wiley has the same service that you can make use of. Sage also has the same service by which you can edit, translate, do some sort of figure formatting that is going to help in the proper management of your research. Even Grammarly can be just tried, because I think I have used it. It's one of the iconic service, because Grammarly does wonders for your research. It helps you to set your goals in accordance to the type of paper, and ultimately what happens, it will just help you to look for the corrections and improve your research papers in accordance to what a particular journal wants from you people. So smaller mistakes related to grammar, punctuation marks, or conjunctions or prepositions, where to put a particular article. Maybe at times we are good at speaking, but when it comes to writing, we may be very much poor. But Grammarly is one of the best services that you should use for mastering your writing communication. References, this is one of the important ways by which you can validate your research. And even many a times it has been just seen that majority of the research papers, they get rejected because you have not properly cited, you have not properly referenced your research there. So, and it's not possible because we have so many reference styles in the market. You can just what we call as master every reference style. So we have various citation and reference management tools. You can make use of Mendeley, which has a desktop version, and it is one of the best ways by which you can just use a service of managing your references. Even Web of Science, through its Clarivate Analytics, it also has a tool by the name of EndNote. I'm sure that you have used EndNote, and you can just convert your references and citations from APA to Chicago, from Chicago to Thurabian, from Thurabian to Harvard, whatever style you are interested in. And you are not supposed to remember the full stops, where to italicize, where to put the braces, because Mendeley, EndNote, or even RefWorks, they can do wonders for managing your references and citations. And one of the best things with these citation reference tools is that they have a write and cite philosophy. Whenever you just download these softwares, they help us to use a philosophy or make use of a philosophy which we call as write and cite philosophy there. So an add-on gets added up in our Word file over there. So whenever we start writing, it automatically helps us to get our references and citations converted to a style in which we are interested. This slide is showing that, okay, I've just generated a reference and I was not supposed to remember like which portion to italicize, which portion to like where to put a particular full stop, where to put a volume number, where to put an issue number. So that was a bit difficult for me to manage. But EndNote or even RefWorks or Mendeley, they did this for me and my manuscript. Content innovation, I think content innovation is basically giving life to your research. It's simply that you are using some sort of multimedia effects to your research. So you can just create some sort of audio slide for your research or some graphical abstracts or some edit data. And that will help your research to stand out from the crowd. Like what your simple manuscript won't be able to do, it is through these content innovation tools, you will be able to do wonders. And the best tools that you can make use of is Dread, Figshare, or re3data.org, which is a registry of research data repositories there. You should make use of this tool. How many of you are familiar with Science Animated Service? Have anyone among you used it? Because if you are writing some paper on, say, suppose metabolic activities, it will automatically help you to give a visualization effect to your paper so that the researchers will be able to understand through graphics your research, because pictures, graphics speak words about your research. What your paper is not able to speak, your graphics speak that thing about your paper. So you should make use of science animation, because that is going to add something new to your research. It will give a voice, a clarity to your research. People will understand your text-based research through the graphics. The same service is also offered by SciPod, which you should make use of. It helps us to create, watch, and listen various types of podcasts, or you can just use video casts, or you can create even the YouTube videos, but with the aid and assistance of experts. We also create some YouTube videos, but they're not expert videos. So cyber people will help you to create the visualized or graphic based videos that will really give a new voice to your research. And that is going to help you in so many things. It will help your research to have better citations, better impact. It will help in attracting the collaborators. People will engage with your research. It will also enhance your funding opportunities, and you can monitor. In fact, in a very lesser time, you can become more committed towards your research. One of the things in your research that you have to manage is whenever you are quoting or say visualizing some previous research or consulting some previous research, because whenever you just do so intentionally or unintentionally, you fall a prey to the epidemic of this plagiarism, which is basically an academic fraud or an academic betrayal, which is a way of mismanagement of your research, and that may lead to rejection. So Shakespeare, I think everyone knows him. So he has written Hamlet. Even Alia Bhatt, she's my favorite. She can claim Hamlet as her own. Do you agree that even in today's world, Alia Bhatt, who is known for her performance, she's a wonderful actress, even she can claim Hamlet as her work. Do you agree with me or not? Do you agree with me or not that Alia Bhatt can claim Hamlet as her own publication? Dr. Sangeeta, am I
No,
audible?
no, yeah. A big no coming in from everyone.
No coming from everyone.
Yes, only one except one who has said yes.
Okay.
Now I can see now more yes coming
I
in.
request. I will request Dr. Sangeeta that the one person who has said yes, I think some memento should be given to him as on my request, because he
Okay.
is correct. Because the person is all. Can you please name the person who has said yes?
I will just say this is Bibiana. I'm not able to see the full name. Bibiana is the first name which is appearing, and then because once you said that is it no, and then there were a couple of others who said
No, no,
yes,
no.
including
Now
Dr.
there won't be a moment. There won't be a memento for everyone now.
They have
So
been, but the first one that we have been able to get was
yeah.
from this Bibiana.
Okay,
The
yeah,
full name is not
Bibiana, thank
appearing.
you.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very much easy. Even Alia Bhatt, I think she's an awesome actress, but she can just claim herself that she is the author of Hamlet or Othello or any other work of Shakespeare or any other person over there. Because thanks to the menace of plagiarism, we can claim anything of ours. But that is going to land you people into trouble because we have various types of similarity checking softwares like Turnitin, Authenticate. We have Original with us, and Grammarly also does the similarity check. So I just want to ask a question to you people, that if I ask a question to you, Dr. Sangeeta, please just you can just help me in this. Uh, what level of what is the percentage of plagiarism that is acceptable? what what amount of or what percentage of plagiarism is acceptable? Can you please answer
10%,
me?
10%. Majority are knowing about 10%, less than 10%, less than 10%. We could see the responses coming in below 10%.
Okay, below
Someone
10%.
below 10%. Someone has now written 1%, 8%, but majority are all saying below 10%, up to 10%. Yeah.
I'm repeating my question again now. What percentage of plagiarism is acceptable? I think Dr. Sangeeta, has anyone written zero?
No, I was wanting to say that there should be zero because one should not
Yeah,
plagiarize at all.
because
Yeah.
plagiarism is an academic crime. So 0% plagiarism is acceptable because many of the people have a confusion that there is no difference between similarity and plagiarism. So similarity is something different and plagiarism is something different. So Turnitin, Authenticate, Original, and Grammarly and other similarity checking softwares, they only look for the similarity. So they show you say 10% similarity, 20% similarity, 8% similarity, or below 10% similarity. But plagiarism is unacceptable. So you should never experiment with it. We have softwares that are ultra professional like Turnitin, Authenticate, Original. Original was earlier Urkunt, which I think majority of the Indian universities were making use of, because Original is now owned by Turnitin. I think it may be a news for majority of you. How many of you are aware about that? The name of Urkund has now changed.
Again, yes, it seems that many of them are aware about it. Many of
Okay.
the attendees, they know.
So apart from that, we should also just know the boundaries of our scientific research, because if we know the boundaries of our scientific research, we will be able to draw a line of demarcation between good research and bad research. So we have to follow the ethics that are demanded. Like suppose if we are just carrying some sort of research in the field of biological sciences, we should be aware about various types of institutional research boards or human subjects or animal ethics committees like POCTA is there. We should be aware about various authorship disputes. Okay, in research, we have to avoid that gender or sex stereotyping there. So we should be aware about the Sager guidelines also. The conflict of interest should be all clear in your research. We should avoid plagiarism, research fraud should be avoided, simultaneous submissions should be avoided, and we should always believe in confidentiality and anonymity of the research. One of the best things that you should always experiment with is the search engine optimization. Your research paper should always have something better. That search engine optimization will help your research paper, if it gets accepted, to be returned as the highest results or the on a higher rank in terms of their what we call as match. So that it means that if your results appear on a first rank or a second rank or on a third rank, it means that your papers will gain more readers, and more readability means better visibility, and better visibility means that you will have better citations, and better citations means you will have better H index, better I-10 index, better say other academic indicators for a researcher. And how that can be achieved, you should use more and more keywords, especially in the title and abstract of your paper. Apart from that, always add captions with the keywords to all the photographs, images, and graphs of your research there. Always try to add the titles and subheadings to your research paper. It means that you have to segment your paper into different headings over there. Also, when it comes to now you have completed your paper, so revision has to play a very significant role, because many a times, if we remember, when we were kids, we prepared all the exams, and even our mothers always said in the morning, beta revise karo ek bari fir se. So the same phenomenon has to be adopted here also, that wo ek शेर एक है कि वक्त फुर्सत कहाँ है, काम अभी बाकी है. So we have to revise even if we feel that we have just done the best with our paper. So you have to stress on the checklist. Checklist simply means what a particular journal demands. So I will advocate that you should first of all open an ORC-ID. So ORC-ID is basically Open Researcher and Contributor ID that will help you to distinguish yourself or your colleagues from others who share the same name. Like maybe Sumeer may be someone else living in some other country. So in order to demarcate his research output from mine, ORCID will do wonders. And whenever you are submitting your research to through ORCID there, you need not to update all the details every time. So ORCID is one of the best phenomenons. So it's basically a distinguishing way of giving a recognition to yourself as a researcher. How many of you are familiar with ORCID? Or how many of you have opened an account with ORCID? Dr. Sangeeta, can you please?
We are able to see again a mixed response coming in. There's a mixed response, but majority.
Okay. Okay, the ones who have not just opened up the ORC-ID, you should just do it, because say tomorrow, if you are submitting a research paper through to a particular publisher like Elsevier or Sage or Taylor and Francis, you need not to put in all the details. What you are supposed to do, simply type in that alphanumeric code that is basically a specific code that is offered to you, and all the details get updated in your research work. And one of the best things that will be done for you is that the editor of the journal, he will recognize you as an ORCID entity, because that will help him to see your past research activities. And if your past scores are excellent and outstanding, that may help your paper to get accepted in that specific journal. So when you submit your research paper, आपको वो पुराने ज़माने की वो चिट्ठी पत्री के थ्रू नहीं भेजना होता है. So you should always make use of the online submission systems. All the leading publishing houses like Wiley, Emerald, and others have the online submission systems which you should experiment. They're as easy as anything. You have to create a user name and a password. So once you create the login credentials there, automatically everything will happen of its own. So you have to focus on the submission requirements, like what a particular journal wants from you. So na zyada na kam. जो आपको वो बोल रहे हैं बस उतना उनको दे दो. They don't want everything from you. You're not going to vomit everything in front of them. So whatsoever is demanded from the journals, only just submit that, because that is going to just save the time of the editors or the publishing unit as well as yours. Because time management in research is very much important, because if you are able to understand how I can manage my time in research, you are an excellent researcher then. So you can have all the talent, but if you are not in a position to know that how your character or how your research character should be translated to a character that has a potentiality of performing as a researcher, then I think you as a researcher stand wasted in the research community there. So your papers will surely go through a peer review process, and that is a very scary type of process, and everyone is very much scared about the peer review process. But majority of the scientists, they have regarded the specific phenomenon as an improvement, which I have also seen, because when I see my papers as a raw paper, then after a minor revision or a major revision, I really see that, okay, is it really my paper? It's really polished, and so it has to just go through so many hands, be it editor or associate editor or a reviewer there. And ultimately, when your papers are reviewed and you may receive some reviews, I will always recommend you people as an author or as a reviewer, because many a times publishers send some papers to you people for the purpose of review. Have you ever used Publon's service? How many of you have used Publon's? It's one of the services of Web of Science through Clarivate Analytics. How many of you are familiar with Publons? It's one of the dynamic services that is globally acclaimed. How many of you have used it?
I think we are able to see only Dr. Sumeer 3 responses, and all of them have said that yes. One of them have said that yes, I know, and the remaining 2 have said yes. But then there
Okay.
are now others who are saying no also.
Okay. So Publons is one of the consolidated services, which is basically a community of researchers. What they just do, they share their reviews. Say tomorrow, if you get a review from a journal like Scientometrics or Journal of Documentation or SLab Journal of Information Management, so once you submit a review of a particular paper, they ask that can we just add your review to your Publons profile. So you have to create a profile of yours in the Publons also, and if you just want your review to be kept open, now don't you feel that after reading my review you can just know that what reviewers want from a particular paper, what reviewers want from a particular author, so you can browse it through country, through subject, through a particular topic or a title, so that you will be able to know that what type of paper should be written. Because once you go through the reviews, you will just see that how you can just improve the way teachers receive feedback for their classroom performance, and we try to improvise. Okay, we may be falling short of some sort of performance in our classroom there where we need to improvise, and it's all done on the basis of the feedback that we receive from our students there. Same happens here also, that if I just read a review that has been done by Dr. Sangeeta or by say Dr. someone else, Mr. A, Mr. B or Mr. C, and tomorrow if I just start writing a paper, don't you feel that the reviews that I have just gone through, that will help me to manage my paper? How many of you agree with me? Because I will be just able to know what to avoid and what not to avoid.
I would just like to mention, Dr. Sameer, that we do have Mr. Kumaraswamy Kothapani. I think his full name is not visible, who has said that he's using both ORCID as well as Publons. Both of them. He's a user of them, and now majority are going for yes. They do agree with you, and then they are saying that yes, we agree with you, sir. Absolutely true.
Exactly, because it is the senior faculty. These are the senior researchers. These are globally acclaimed researchers who are sharing their experiences. And once we go through these experiences, it will help me to get a sensitization of myself that where I am wrong there. So when I read someone else's review. So what authorship gives to you, it gives you incredible lessons. So how to take the knocks, is it? So at times you feel depressed that your paper has not been accepted. So you don't want to wake up the next day, but you have to go on because people give you when you are like a they like people usually just give up when they are defeated, and at times they compromise on the principles, is it, when they are defeated. So but if you are able to handle your defeat, you go higher in your life, is it? So you have to go on with a bunch of people who have nothing in common, because आपका एक रिव्यूअर एक अच्छा कमेंट देगा, एक रिव्यूअर एक बहुत ही बुरा कमेंट देगा, एक रिव्यूअर है जो बहुत ही गंदा कमेंट देगा, ठीक है? सो यू विल हैव अ फ्यूजन, क्योंकि वो मेरे कोई चाचा नाना या मामा नहीं है कि वो हर कोई मुझे अच्छे अच्छे कमेंट्स देगा कि बाजी समीर साहब आपका पेपर बहुत अच्छा है. सो there will be a bunch of comments from different reviewers, is it? So there will be ups and downs. So but what you learn in adversity, I think no university, no teacher can teach you that. So the worst and the best part of your life are the failures, and they are the best teachers. Your failures are the best teachers, and I feel that success is a lousy type of teacher, and your failure is your real friend, your philosopher, and your guide, because that helps you to have that academic struggle. And through these Publon based reviews, you will be able to know that how to take these knocks, in fact the academic knocks, positively, and you will be able to manage your research. So you should always be thankful to all your peer reviewers, never criticize them. Dr. Sangeeta, am I audible?
Yes. Yeah, very much, very much. Yes. Yes, Dr. Sameer, you're very much audible. Dr. Sameer, we are towards the, Sameer, yes, yes, yes. We are reconnected.
Just it will take me now 5 or 10 minutes, so I'll be just completing it. So
Yeah, sure.
just make one thing sure, that even if you get a rejection, so rejections never mean that, okay, it's the end of the story or it's the end of the world. So all rejection is just a redirection. So it's all a way of redirecting yourself, because management teaches us a lesson. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. It went
Okay.
off for a second. Yeah, it's back here, please.
Okay, so you will receive a congratulations note. You may receive a congratulation, and now you will say that, Sameer sir, for what? Is it? So congratulations, that it's a pleasure that your manuscript entitled blah 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 has been accepted in its current form. So once your paper has been accepted, is it the end of the story? No. So what after acceptance? I think being information scientists or librarians, you have to play a significant role in just sensitizing the researchers in promoting their work, is it? And one of the best ways by which the work of your colleagues, your professors, or even your librarians can be promoted is that you have to share the links and of prints through your emails, social networking sites, or the librarian accounts that have been just created for the patrons or the users of your institutions, so that people will get to know about the productivity of your institutions, the people who have just done incredible research. So you as librarians have a significant role to play in giving a voice to the work that has been published by your colleagues from your institutions there. Even you can just conduct various types of, say, conferences or chats with various types of students, faculty members, or research scholars, so that your faculty who has written a particular paper, they can share their research with the audiences, you being the organizer, because you are the information connectors, you are the information managers who have the responsibility of disseminating the information to the targeted audiences there. Your way of showing another responsibility is that if you have created some sort of institutional repository, how many of you have an institutional repository of yours? Does anyone in the group has an institutional repository? So you can just put on the preprints or the accepted versions of the manuscripts on the institutional repositories so that a better visibility of the research can be achieved. So your role is far beyond issue and return. So that can be even done by a library assistant. So you are basically the connectors, managers, consolidators of information. Then ultimately you can also help your researchers to monitor the impact of your work. You should be aware about various tools by which you can sensitize your researchers that how much impactful their research is. So how? Like what their H index is all about, what their item index is all about, and that can be achieved through tools like Scopus, our ResearchGate or Impact Story. We have Element platforms, Web of Science, Google Scholar, academia.edu, or Pure is one of the services that is offered by Elsevier. So Kudos is also one of the services that I always advocate, by which you can write your paper in a plain language of 15 or 20 lines and share it. That will also help your papers to get a better readability. Better readability means better citability, and that will help you to measure the impact of your research. People will recognize your research, they will give grades to your research, and what else for your institution. So in the end, I will say that difficult doesn't mean impossible. It always means that you and only you have to work hard. And surely you as a librarian have a significant role to play, both as a researcher and as a facilitator, to help in managing the research activities of your institution. Because it was Darwin who rightly said that it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to the change. So with these words, I will just say that you are a librarian and you have to act like a mother, because mothers always like their kids, is it? Ravan ko, matlab we have like Ravan is considered as a very like Nigedu type of figure, and Ram is there like who's a very pious, he's a god, he's a lord, but अपनी माँ जो होती है, माँ को रावण भी पसंद था और उसी माँ को राम भी पसंद था. So be it a rejection, a revision, or even unacceptance, you should be very much accommodative in just having everything, because you are a librarian, you are an information processor. So you have to accept every person whosoever visits your library, so that you can sensitize him or her about various types of strategies, various types of tools by which he or she can manage his or her research, because that will help your institution to grow. And the growth of your institution means it will give better grades to your institution, better accreditation will be to your institution. And it's not that, okay, rejections will just lead to a problem for a particular researcher. And can anyone of you just tell me that how many of you have seen a movie? Because I'll just end with that. It was basically a movie by the name of King Kong. So the giant monster, the King Kong, he falls in love with a very beautiful girl there. And just at the end, the giant is just that big gorilla that is just killed. When he falls from that, I think, a very huge tower there, and like people from media, people from police, they just gather around that big beast over there. And one of the persons comes and says that it was the helicopters, it was the police that just killed the beast. But one of the persons says that it was not the police that killed the beast. It was basically the beauty that killed the beast. So you have to just create that beauty as a researcher in yourself, by which the beast of ignorance, by which the beast of that non-availability, non-acceptance will be killed, so that you will evolve as a best researcher, a manager of the real research. So with these words, I thank all of you for being so wonderful and for the patient listening there. Thank you once again.
What a spellbound presentation, Dr. Sumeer. This has truly been the most impactful presentations I have ever, in my past 29 years of my professional career, have seen someone, who I was talking. It was your words. It's truly, when we say the words of wisdom, we have been able to see that it has just been a spark, a light, enlightening in a true manner, because that's what you have been knowing about it yourself. uh, it, it was really so heartening. May God bless you. You have really enlightened in not only the library and information science professionals. I think this holds greater value for anyone and everyone who wants to publish responsibly. And there wasn't anything which has been left out. All the macro and the micro levels, you have dealt with the subject in such a wonderful, fascinating manner, and a very lucid presentation, because as this was very evident that you are such a versatile writer and author, because you have gone through this entire journey, that how to really publish yourself in a very, very, in a most dignified and with the most prestigious, publishers and all. That was quite evident. And I think it's not just the impact factor of the journals in which you are publishing. It has been truly, we have felt it every minute, every second, in every word that you have spoken today and discussed with us, that you are a person who holds really great expertise on this. And I think our researchers and scholars in our members in the institutions across not only India, because today we also have a large number of attendees from various other countries who are joining in, and everyone really wants that this particular session of yours, this lecture, should be heard by many of their own faculty members and researchers. And Sumeer, we really can't thank you enough. It was the passion with which you spoke today, and it was something we could have never thought of anything else, not better. It has been the most marvelous and the most magnificent talk we ever had, on this subject, and you have truly brightened up the paths. No, Dr. Sumeer, we really mean that, and that's we could see that that's being there. If you happen to see, our chat boxes are now being flooded, with the feedback from the participants.
I'm not able to see the chat box. Can you please just help me see the chat box?
The reason why I said, because that was the reason I was reading and telling it to you, because that remains with the organizers. It doesn't really goes to the speaker. But I would be more than happy to also send across this entire feedback, and everyone is in great admiration and appreciation for you. And you have really made the day such a wonderful day to always cherish and remember, wherein Dr. Sumeer Gul has spoken about everything. I don't think you have put all the queries to rest, and not many near things that you have touched upon. I think those who may be having, being even publishing and all, but you have just given such a wonderful holistic view of everything. It was more like a handbook of that how to really not only for publication, but also you have connected it in such a way, a very wonderful way, and a lucid presentation that you have made, and remain much grateful to you, Dr. Sumeer, for this. It has truly been. And with your permission, we would also like to inform to our attendees, because everyone has been asking for that, they are wanting to have and listen to you again and again, and everyone would really like to listen to it, and we really don't want anyone to miss out. So even our professional colleagues may really be wanting to further pass on the word to their own researchers and faculty members in their institution. So we would like to put this entire presentation of yours on the YouTube channel of DELNET, and that's for everyone to know about, our attendees, that DELNET has now introduced a YouTube. On the YouTube, we have made a channel of DELNET Web View. That is, a web is for the webinars viewing. So all our webinars that we have been organizing, they already have been made available over there. And with the permission of Dr. Sumeer Gul, we would also like to make today's presentation also made available, and so that more and more would immensely get benefited. You really have, I think, Dr. Sumeer, you must really try to create a manual. I would be approaching you maybe in next few weeks' time, that we would like to seek your, such a wonderful expertise now, and the best practices for researchers and scholars, that what they should
Sure,
do.
sure,
So
sure.
the do's and don'ts, which you have done it, so wonderfully, and if we can collate them, in a kind of a manual if it comes, and you hold the greatest expertise, it's really it has been like discovering you, that you also have such a wonderful expertise on this, and thank you so very much, Sumeer. Really can't thank you enough. Thank you is a very small expression of how grateful we have really felt, and we really
In
mean
fact,
that.
it's a privilege.
We,
It's a privilege for me that I
we
got
really can't.
connected with my fellow colleagues all over India. So it was really good to be a part of this academic gathering. So really, really thank you
Thank you.
for
And
being so much patient. And I love all my professional colleagues. I love my profession. I love my
thank you.
university,
Yeah.
which has
Thank you.
given me this platform, and DELNET, and especially Dr.
Thank you.
Sangeeta for giving
It's
me
a pleasure.
this wonderful opportunity to share my
Yeah.
experiences.
So maybe with your permission, we would like to really reword the presentation, the title of the presentation. We also want to bring in, the researchers and scholars, so that, as you have also said, that how you can, the title of your paper should be something. So it's just like in your presentation also, not just simply the role of libraries. This is more to do that how they really can make their research works more visible, and how in a responsible manner they can do this entire work, and sensitizing them about it. I'll have a discussion with you, because we would just like to reword this and then to make it available, so that larger number of our scholarly and research community can get immensely benefited, in addition to our own library and information science professionals. So thank you
Sure.
so very much, Sumeer, and we'd just like to now make the floor open quickly for a few questions, so that we
Sure.
really want to, it is something that we really want to stay on forever, and you have truly have, it has been the most impactful webinar session and a presentation made by anyone. So all kudos to you, and may God bless you with
Thank
infinite
you. Thank you so
energy
much.
to keep on, contributing in such a very meaningful and an enriching manner. And we really mean that, Dr. Sumeer. We would like to make the floor open for very quick questions, and would like to
Sure.
request our colleagues, and just right now lowering the hands of everyone, and now making the floor open for questions. Making the floor open for questions if you want any question, because all the questions have been put to rest by Dr. Sumeer Gul, because he just covered everything. It just covered everything, whatever, the next slide you were able to see that, and that was what he was able to really make such a very convincing presentation today, and micro, macro, everything, that anyone would have desired to cover in this, he has been able to do that. So making a very quick request to our colleagues over here today, you want to ask any question to Dr. Sumeer, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity to interact with him. So please do kindly raise your digital hand, or otherwise put your question in the chat box, and they'll be more than happy to take the question from here. I'm quickly glancing through this entire list of our attendees. It's a huge, big numbers, and we're just trying to see. And then otherwise, I would quickly take the questions from the chat box. So just allow me a few seconds more, because I'm trying to see, because if you place your question in the chat box, we will be able to take more questions, because audio connections does take a little more time. And it is towards, yes. We have, let me just get connected with Dr. Pankaj Mathur. Dr. Pankaj Mathur, you have raised your hand. Dr. Pankaj Mathur, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question? This is for Dr. Pankaj Mathur. Dr. Mathur, could you please unmute yourself and ask the question? Dr. Mathur is not able to do that. So let me go to the next one. This is Harpreet Kaur. Harpreet, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question? This is for Harpreet Kaur. Harpreet, could you please unmute yourself and ask the question? I think because of paucity of time, what I would like to request you all is that place your question in the chat box, and we would like to take. There was a question, and just quickly, there's a question from Dr. MB Batappa, who is wanting to know how to create ORCID ID. How to create
Okay,
this ID,
it's as easy as anything. The way we are just creating our Gmail or Yahoo accounts over there. So you have to create the Orchid account. It's basically a free service that has been developed by Orchid Incorporation. So you would simply need to Google an Orchid, and it will just ask for the details that you are supposed to fill, like your name, your affiliation, and all the academic details are supposed to be filled. So once you are just done with that, automatically an alphanumeric code will just appear, which will be basically a representative of yours, and that will represent you as a researcher, as a unique researcher.
Perfect. So now another question quickly for you, and this is from Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava, and he says, I'm really impressed with your learning, and so we all are. It's not only you, Dr. Deepak, all of us are in great, greatly, impressed, not only impressed, Dr. Sumeer has today made such a great presentation and made us all feel truly enlightened. There's not much of light now we are able to see around, because of his presentation. And he wants to say, I want to ask a question that what kind of tools should be used for testing questionnaires? Please guide us for testing questionnaires.
Okay, I think whenever it comes to the testing of questionnaires there, I think it all depends upon like what type of questionnaires you are compiling. If they are scale based, like if like they are Likert based, like we have different types of scalings are there. So I think the tools that can be used for just first of all, just tell me, is it like testing a questionnaire or like constructing a questionnaire?
I think it is perhaps, constructing a questionnaire. Constructing
I
a
think
questionnaire. No, but he's more wanting to know the tool which is there. So
okay.
perhaps for both we can, because he's wanting to ask what kind of tools are being available.
Okay, I think SurveyMonkey is one of the best tools that you should make use of. You just want to construct a particular questionnaire. Nowadays, the online mechanism has just done wonders for every aspect of research. And I will just advocate that SurveyMonkey, which has different types of versions. So one that I think the basic version that is free of cost, but it has some limitations. But the higher versions, which are of like gold, platinum ones, you can just have, and it's not like it has a nominal fee there. So SurveyMonkey will just do wonders if you just want questionnaires. So it creates questionnaires that are like of scaling mechanism, or if you just want to create questionnaires of multiple options or short type or para-based. So it has every sort of provision to create a questionnaire. But when it comes to the testing of a questionnaire there, I will always recommend that it should always be tested by an expert. Say, suppose if you are just having some sort of questionnaire, one of my scholars, she's working this time on the personality traits, especially neuroticism, that is common among the library professionals in the Jammu and Kashmir Valley there. So we first of all created it through the Survey Monkey there, and even we also had made use of Google Forms for the construction of the questionnaire. But ultimately, to get it validated and tested whether everything is appropriate enough in it, we consulted a psychiatrist and a person and a professor from psychology. So I think the validation and the testing has to be always been done by a subject expert. But when it comes to the construction part there, always make use of a tool like SurveyMonkey, or even nowadays Google Forms is, I think that is widely used these days.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sumeer. Another question coming in from Abid Kharedi, who is wanting to know, is social media visibility also important for a research scholar?
I think that is now doing wonders for the research scholars. Let me just tell you one thing. I am just getting the collaboration request from, say, countries like US, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, China, Pakistan. I think two of the requests were from Germany, because it is only through the social media account I got connected, because when I started sharing my research links through Facebook, Twitter, even LinkedIn or ResearchGate. So people recognize your work. I think social media is basically the voice of people. And nowadays, we have one important phenomenon in the research, that is altimetrics, how you are measuring the what we call as social impact of your research. So earlier it was only academic impact that was measured through impact factor by the aid of how many citations you receive. But nowadays Altimetrics is doing wonders because it is seeing that how much socially your research is impactful, how it is discussed on Twitter, Facebook, Mendeley, or even how it has been blogged, how it has been tweeted. So we have research that has really crossed borders because of social media. So I always advocate that whenever you publish your research, always share your links across social media.
Great. Thank you very much,
And that
Sumeer.
is that
And
is
now,
also just that has also increased my citation rate, my H index, my I-10 index also.
perfect, great. This is a question coming in from one of our colleagues, Tabshir Ahmed, and who wants to know if there are some institutional constraints. I think he's hinting towards that because he says that if someone, prevents him in publishing, so what is can be a kind of a legal remedy or anything like that? Means how one can tackle that situation. And I think researchers, scholars, he may be wanting to know that if someone really tries to create some kind of an issue, how they can really get away, that kind of a scenario.
Can you please just clarify the question to me? Is it like a paper that has been just
See, the thing is, what I would like to request Tabshir Ahmed is, he can write to you because it has been, he's basically, because the question in itself is not that clear, but he has spoken about that what can be, if someone prevents
Tabshir,
prevents
can you
him
please
from.
unmute yourself? Can you please unmute the participant so that he can clarify the question?
Yes, surely. No, I have to see that, or just would like to make, because he's wanting to, yeah. This is for you, Mr. Tabshir Ahmed. Could you please unmute yourself and can ask the question directly to Dr. Sumeer? Because maybe, there's some issues, which does happen in the publication and how really one can do. This is for Mr. Tabshir Ahmed. Tabshir, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question? I have unmuted you from here, Tabshir.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello, good
please,
evening,
yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, my question is, if I have published my paper and I am publishing it, if someone claims that it has already been published, then what is the legal way to deal with it?
Okay.
Because it's.
Okay. I think, are you aware about Tabshir, the Committee on Publishing Ethics, COOP? Are you aware about that?
No, sir.
Okay. They are basically the ethical guidelines that are basically a sort of compendium for editors, reviewers, and authors. First of all, I'm damn sure that whenever you are publishing a research paper, which is original in its nature, and if it has been published, first of all, it will just go through a litmus test by the publisher. The majority of the I think what we call as the quality publishers, they use Authenticate for checking the similarity of the manuscript there. So if I submit my research paper and they just feel that, okay, the paper stands, publish it already because it is showing 100% similarity. So they will never accept a paper that has been already published. Now, now it may happen that maybe because of some technical fault or it might not have been just brought to the notice over there, there is a phenomenon which we call as retraction. So retraction is basically the academic cleansing by which you can first of all intimate the editor that the Falana person has just done this type of academic deceit. He has just copied my paper, and the publication date will clarify every dispute. Like whosoever has published it first, it will be to his or her credit. Then you can just clarify it to the editor and the author will be blacklisted. Apart from that, Committee on Publishing Ethics, they have their own these publishing boards to which you can claim and the author will be blacklisted and he will be also penalized. and it all depends upon the rules and regulations of a particular country, that how much they are flexible in giving a liberty or punishing a particular person if this type of crime happens. Because I'm damn sure that once I think a paper was accepted and it was published in Nature. Uh, in that specific journal, it was pertinent to some cancer patients who were suffering from cancer, and the data was collected from one of the biggest cancer institutes of United States of America. Paper got published in Nature. Later on, what happened over there, the director of that institution, he wrote to the editor of the journal that without his consent, the author has collected the details from the patients. It was totally unethical, and the paper later on got retracted. Can you imagine that a paper that was first of all published in Nature and later on it got rejected because of an unethical approach of an author, and later on the author was also penalized by the academic institutions over there. So it now depends upon the country rules or the national rules whether it can happen or not. But when it comes to the publishing side, you can directly report to the editor and the author will be blacklisted and he will be penalized.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Okay,
and
sir.
thank you, Mr. Tapshir. Yeah, thank you very much. There is a question from Mr. Arun Singh Thakur, and he says that at times they encounter a scenario, Sameer, wherein the researchers, they publish a paper which is in the Scopus listed journal, and later on that journal is being withdrawn from the Scopus database. So in that scenario, how, because they have to say, show that it has been listed and means they have published their work in a Scopus listed journal, the researcher has published the journal and later on that has been withdrawn. What really to do in that kind of a scenario?
Okay, just a minute. I'll just make it more clearer to you.
And this is also Sameer, sorry to interrupt. This is
Yeah.
again Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava who asked about the testing questionnaire. He says that I want to know about validating and testing the questionnaire. Any tools? Validating and testing the questionnaire.
Okay, let me first of all answer the one who has just asked about the Scopus over there. In fact, we are all aware about that when it comes to a database like Scopus, they maintain the indexer journals on an annual basis. So it is a sort of cleansing mechanism that happens with reputed databases like Web of Science and Scopus. I think you're all familiar about a journal, Library Philosophy and Practice. I think majority of you may be just knowing the name of the journal, Library Philosophy and Practice. So that was one of the darling journals of I think every author all across the globe, because every trash paper got published in Library Philosophy and Practice. And I always advocated my scholars that don't publish in that, because even I had some publications in Library Philosophy and Practice, but it never maintained the quality. Later on, I think last year in 2021, it was seized, it was discontinued by Scopus. But if you just go to the Scopus database there, we have a free service of Scopus by the name of Scopus Source Preview. Are you aware about that specific service? It's Scopus Source Preview. So once you type in the details of the journal, it will give you the details that from the specific date till the specific date, the journal was indexed by Scopus there. So when your paper was accepted at that particular period of time, the journal was indexed in Scopus. So you have to take a screenshot of that specific journal over there, and the date will automatically be in your favor because it was not your fault. The paper in the journal in which your paper got accepted, it was indexed by Scopus till that specific date, but later on it got discontinued, but it will be credited and that screenshot will help you. So you should use that Scopus Source Preview service. That will surely help you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Sameer. And I think many of our attendees would be, really requiring this clarity. So what you have done now, would you like to reply on this validating and testing the questionnaire, by Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava, and perhaps the last question that we are posing it to you.
Okay. Can you please just unmute Dr. This?
Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So this is for you, Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava. We are unmuting you so that, yes, because the clarity is not there in the question, so better to have a direct interaction with you. This is for you, Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava. Could you please unmute yourself and ask the question directly to Dr. Sumeer? Dr. Deepak Kumar Srivastava, could you please quickly unmute yourself and ask the question? I think Sumeer is not able to do that. Maybe perhaps we will connect Dr. Srivastava with you, and we are also going to let each one of you have the link for seeing this entire presentation yet again. And as we are inching towards the closure of the session, I think there are a couple of other questions, but because of paucity of time, we are not able to take it. But you can very well get in touch with Dr. Sumeer Gul Sumeer, you can share your email ID with them. It's
yeah, sure.
Sumeer. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just sharing it.
Yeah.
.com.
In fact, you need not to, because it's showing over there. Also, your mailbox is partially being visible, and they can see that. Or perhaps, Sumeer, you can put it in the chat box. It will go to everyone.
I think it's not enabled over here because it's for like
no
organizers.
Problem. I'm just doing that. Yes, you have written it, and I'm just also mentioning the same. I'm just going to broadcast it to all. So please kindly note this is for the entire attendees over here. We have sent it across to you, the email ID of our most distinguished speaker of the day, Dr. Sumeer Gul, and you can get in touch with him for any further queries, because as being evident, he has got much of expertise on anything and everything, concerning this entire research work that we have been talking about. And not only the librarians, I think our researchers and scholars may also like to get in touch with Dr. Sumeer and to get benefited with his vast expertise. So Sumeer, once again, I would like to now is time for me to convey our great appreciation and must thank you. And thank you for being there with us, and you have made such a wonderful presentation which we are going to remember and cherish, and which really have clarified many of the doubts which were lingering in the minds of our scholars or researchers or our own library and information science professionals. You have really cleared it in a very, very simple language, because you have been the one holding such a great experience on this. So thank you so very much for taking out so much of time for us, and have been able to grace this and to share your vast expertise with each one of us. We truly remain grateful to you, and may God bless you, and you keep on spreading and making the lives more enlightened of our users and of our own professional colleagues with your vast wisdom. So thank you so much, Sumeer, and
thank you once again.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, indeed, a great pleasure
once again,
for us.
Just thank you to all of you, and Dr. Sangeeta also, for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
and we would also
Take
like
care.
to thank each one of our attendees over here who have been able to join us from different nooks and parts of the country, and also from outside India. We truly remain grateful to you for your participation, very active and engaging participation, that because of you, we have been able to have such a wonderful deliberations during the last 2 hours. And thank you so very much. Your presence has truly been valued by us. And we would also like to mention that we are going to now, this is also an occasion to inform that DELNET has now launched our WebView channel on the YouTube, a WebView for webinar. We have shortened it as an acronym WebView, and all our video recordings of our previous webinar sessions, if you may like to view them again, you can do that. We are going to also inform you with the specific link. And with the permission of Dr. Sumeer Gul, we are also going to upload the video of this presentation also today. And we request you do kindly inform as many lives that you can can reach out to your researchers and scholars by making them know about Dr. Sumeer Gul and his great contribution that he has made through this presentation. We would truly be very much thankful to you. So with this, we would like to close today's session, and we would like to thank once again each one of you for being there, and our very, very special thanks to Dr. Sumeer. Sumeer, we really can't thank you enough. You have really made a high impact. You can't measure it. There are certain times which are, you can't measure. You can't measure the intensity. You can't measure otherwise. And we are into that situation right now. So it is much beyond any kind of, and you can't gauge the intensity, of your highly impactful presentation here. And may God bless you. It's a wonderful, association, and we really look forward to having many more opportunities to have you back again, on the DELNET platform. Thank you very much for your immense support, and thank you very much each one of our colleagues across the country and even from outside India you give us an inspiration, you inspire us always to keep on coming back, to you with the new webinar topics, and do suggest us, do tell us what you want, and you always find DELNET to be taking your advice and suggestions. So we really want to ensure that we are able to move ahead collectively together, all of us, and to keep on spreading, the light and making the paths of our researchers, scholars, whosoever, come across the path of our library and information science professionals should always truly feel enlightened the way today Dr. Sumeer Gul has made it, for us, and let we become the light for others, and to keep on illuminating, through this very wonderful and noble profession of the libraries and librarianship. So thank you very much once again, each one of you. God bless you all. Wishing you the best of the times ahead. Stay happy, stay blessed, do stay connected, stay informed, and we really look forward to having you back again soon. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Sumeer. May God bless you. God bless you. It has been a wonderful pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thanks.